Good morning and welcome to Shuffling the Quad Squad. I am your host, Jennifer. I am mother to George and the naturally conceived quadruplets. My husband is Daniel. Today we are going to be discussing an extremely difficult topic for me to discuss. I have tried to record this video 5 times already today and have busted out into tears pretty much every time. So hopefully this is the one to get us through this and I can talk about all of it. It is definitely a difficult topic for me to discuss. From the moment that I started Shuffling the Quad Squad, I knew that I was going to have to talk about their NICU journey and my NICU experience. And I have been dreading it ever since I started Shuffling the Quad Squad and these videos. I knew that I was going to have to talk about it. And it's given me sleepless nights that I'm going to have to revisit some things that I absolutely do not want to talk about. But it is a huge, important part to their journey. It's an important part to me and my journey and Daniel's journey. And so we need to talk about it. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? And also, if you have had a child that was in the NICU and you have had your own NICU journey, please know that this may not be the video for you to watch. This may bring up a lot of things that you're not ready to think about, talk about. This may not be the video for you. So that is just a warning to mothers who have already been through this. They're starting to discover that moms have PTSD after a NICU journey, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And if you need help, please reach out to a counselor. And hopefully you can get help for your PTSD following the NICU. It's a real thing. It needs to be talked about, and we need to spread awareness for it. I certainly think that I have it as well. Obviously, having to talk about it and having sleepless nights about it means that I definitely have some unresolved issues in regards to my NICU journey. The other thing I need to discuss before we get into this story is that my opinions are going to be my opinions alone. To a certain extent, there's positives and there are negatives, and not everybody is going to agree with my opinion because every journey in the NICU is going to be different. Every family's journey in the NICU is going to be different. And so therefore you need to know, this is my opinion, this is my journey, and it is only one journey. It may not necessarily mean that it's going to be your journey, and that's okay too. But you just need to know that these are my opinions alone. So I had the quadruplets at 32 and a half weeks. I've already gone through their birth story, so at this point we're going to pick up in the hospital room. I went ahead and I took a nice long nap for approximately, I want to say 4 hours, but I'm not entirely sure. I had to be able to walk to the wheelchair by myself. So at that point, Daniel was able to get me into the wheelchair and he was able to wheel me towards the NICU. I remember almost getting a little emotional seeing the neonatal intensive care over the hospital door as those double doors swung open. And I think I got emotional because I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know what was coming, kind of a thing. And so those double doors open and you're instantly surrounded with beeps and sounds of oxygen and the sterile smell of like an operating room almost. And you're hit with that smell the moment that those double doors open. So we wheeled in. I was extremely concerned. I did not know what I was going to be facing, what I was going to be seeing, and how I would react with those emotions that I was feeling just sitting in the wheelchair, not meeting my kids yet. So Daniel wheeled me into baby A and C's room. They were roommates. It was so cute. They had them set up together, and I also had found out that Bruce and Olivia, baby D and B, were in a room together as well, and they were roommates down the hallway. And so Daniel wheeled me into A and C's room, and I got to see them in their isolettes. We actually call those, in our household, their glass castles. And the reason that we call them their glass castles is because they needed to know that those were protecting them. They were keeping them safe. It was something that needed to happen so that they could thrive and grow and be the children that they are today. So in our household, we actually called them glass castles instead of isolettes. And Daniel had wheeled me in. And I remember the excitement of getting to see my children. However, I was filled at that moment with more guilt than I have ever felt. And at that time, my 28 years of life. And the reason I felt so guilty was because I only carried them to 32 and a half weeks instead of 40 weeks, which is what a normal pregnancy would be. If maybe I hadn't complained about my back pain or my stomach pain or my leg pain so much, God wouldn't have made them come out so early, and that it was 100% my fault that these kids were in these isolettes and that they weren't coming home with me as if it were a normal pregnancy, and that it was my fault that they were so small. It was my fault that they had all these tubes coming out of them and they had machines connected to them. It was 100% my fault, and I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't a good enough mom to keep them in longer than 32 and a half weeks. And I will forever, ever have that guilt that I did that to these kids. They started out their lives in isolettes because I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't a good enough mom to keep them in long enough. And nowadays everybody just has their own opinions on parenting and how to parent and how to do it right. And so if even one person says something negative to me about my parenting style or that I'm doing something wrong, I go straight back to that woman in that room, that I wasn't good enough then. What makes me good enough now to be their mom? What makes me good enough now that I am a good mom? And so if anybody says anything negative to me, or I find something negative about parenting, I go back to that woman who was wheeled in a wheelchair to see her kids, and that first reaction of, I did this to them and it's all my fault, and I'm not a good enough mom to even be their mom because they came out at 32 and a half weeks and I wasn't even strong enough to keep them in for the full 40, which is almost nearly impossible with a quadruplet pregnancy. But it still affects me to this day that it was my fault and I did that to them. So it came time to get to hold Amelia, and the nurse let me know that I was going to get to do skin-on-skin contact with Amelia, and I was super duper excited and happy that I was going to get to do that. And Amelia was doing very, very well at this point. I believe she just had a nasal cannula in her little nose, but wasn't, on air or anything like that at that point, just the little nasal cannula. And she looked pretty good. They were feeding her through a feeding tube. So she was relatively healthy, actually, for being born at 32 and a half weeks. She was my little fighter, man. And she was 3 pounds, 13 ounces. She was my biggest of the 4. To a certain extent, she still is the biggest of the 4. And they laid her on my bare chest, and it was by far one of the greatest moments of my life. I mean, that skin-on-skin contact, if you're a mom, you know how incredible that feeling is and how wonderful that feeling is to get to have your baby on your chest with the one-on-one skin contact. It's absolutely incredible. And so we got to do that. I don't remember being able to do that with B, D, or C. As a matter of fact, baby D, I didn't get to hold until she was approximately 2 weeks old. I was able to hold her within her glass castle, but I could not physically take her out and do the skin-on-skin contact for about 2 weeks. She was too weak, and her stats would continuously drop, meaning her heart rate, her blood pressure. Usually babies just thrive with that one-on-one contact with their moms, but with Delivia, baby D, she did not thrive. Her stats usually dropped, which was really, really weird. So Delivia, I actually didn't get to hold for 2 weeks. Doesn't matter. It didn't affect us in any way. We still have an incredible bond. Love her to pieces. It wasn't that big of a deal. I will forever be sad that I wasn't able to hold her for 2 weeks, but it absolutely made no difference. I adore her. She adores me. And, she's strong. So she did fine. Chrissy, I think I got to hold the next day, and Bruce, I think I got to hold, the next day. But so I did the one-on-one contact with Amelia. I kind of got an update as to how things kind of work to a certain extent. Within the NICU, how they do it is that a child has to meet goals. Some of them are daily goals. Some of them are weekly goals. So, at the end of the week, we want them doing this. At the end of the day, we want to see, if she can do this. And so they kind of, if I remember correctly, they gave me that rundown as to what, Daniel and I were facing in regards to our NICU journey. So, every day they needed to do certain things. We were pretty much told right away, Dee Dee was in a rough spot, and they were hoping she would survive, but they weren't entirely sure. She was just very, very little at 2.5 pounds, and I believe she was on, heavier oxygen, and she was just so tiny. We didn't know what her future held, and they didn't know what her future was going to hold at all. And but for the most part, 3 of them were real healthy, pretty good weights for quadruplets, and that they just needed to meet these goals, but that, they should be okay. And so some of those goals included little things that I can let you in on. So, instead of nasal cannula or breathing tube, they needed to be on room air, is what they called it, which is where they weren't, needing any extra help with breathing. Getting off the feeding tube to bottles, which came much later. Obviously, they were being fed through the tube quite a bit for quite a while. Let's see, what else? Most premature babies are jaundice, which means a yellowing of the skin. And they give them a suntan with this little purple light above them. And they have to sit under that for several hours. And it usually helps cure the jaundice if you're lucky with it. So there's little things that they had to meet, and a checklist that they had to meet. And I was going to be in the hospital due to the C-section for 3 days. And then after that, I would be released, but my kids would have to stay in the NICU. We lived approximately 20 minutes from the hospital. So every day, we would drive to the NICU, usually in the afternoon, and spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, if not more, with them. And I always had to bring my milk. I breastfed, but I pumped because there was 4 of them. So yes, I did breastfeed, but it was not from my breast. I had a pump, and I was able to create milk for all 4 of them. My body just did awesome with that. And I was very, very blessed that, my milk came in, and I was a cow full-blooded. And I love pumping. I actually really enjoyed pumping compared to breastfeeding. Once they were released from the NICU, I would occasionally breastfeed Bruce. He was very sweet and very gentle. And then there was Amelia, who would, I try to breastfeed, and she was just a monster and would take, my boob out. So I really enjoyed pumping. And I don't know if I'm looked down on that or not. It just really worked for me with having multiples. I don't have 4 breasts. I only have 2. And it just worked out better for me to fill the bottles for them. And they were trained to a nipple pretty much right away. So, breast nipple. Or not a breast nipple, a bottle nipple. I'm sorry. And so, I enjoyed pumping quite a bit. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to breastfeed or bottle feed, or it's up to you. You're the mom. You make that decision. For me, pumping was the best way to go with having multiples, and I'm glad I did it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I enjoyed giving, that milk to my kids, and so a lot of people do ask me, did you breastfeed? Kind of, but kind of not. It just depended on, I didn't have 4 boobs. We're human, and if you have 4 boobs, you may not be human, and so that would cause a problem. Anyway, sorry. So, I did breastfeed to a certain extent, but not entirely. And then Amelia kept meeting her goals, so I don't want to go into when their actual birthday is, but it was in March. Amelia came home from the NICU April 6th. Now, in order for them to get released, there were a couple of tests that she had to pass in order to do that. One test was the car seat test. So they needed to make sure that if they were in a car seat, that they wouldn't suffocate, that they would sleep okay, and that they would be okay. So we passed the car seat test. They also had to do an altitude test because the city that we lived in was above 7,000 feet. And they literally depleted their oxygen so that they could make sure that they would breathe on the higher altitude and that they didn't need oxygen. Delivia failed her high altitude test twice. We ended up having to stay in the big city for approximately a month longer than we had planned to because Delivia kept failing that test. And it still didn't help that we waited a month. She failed it again. And she ended up coming to our current city with oxygen on. And she was on oxygen, I want to say, for 2 months post coming home. So she never did pass the altitude test until much, much later. And the other thing with Delivia is that approximately, I want to say 3 days into the NICU journey, she wasn't gaining any weight. So at that point, they were concerned that she was failure to thrive. We were faced with the realization that if your body cannot process nutrients, that without nutrients, we do not survive. And so we were told that we might need to prepare for Delivia's death and that they were going to be running a test in regards to if her stomach was telling her to take in the nutrients. Her brain and her stomach were telling her that she needed to eat. And I cried. Oh dear, did I cry really, really hard that night when they told me they were going to be performing that test. So they needed to do that test for 3 days to see if her brain and her stomach were telling her to process nutrients correctly. And eventually we found out after that 3 days that she was just tiny. And at that point, we were relieved, of course, because her brain and her stomach were telling each other to eat and absorb nutrients. And that was amazing and fantastic. And but that 3 days was hell, thinking that we may have to bury our daughter. And on top of taking care of the other 3 who were in the NICU, they needed us too, even though, Delivia was having a harder time. They needed their mommies and daddies too. And so we had to make sure that we were taking care of the other 3 as well during that difficult time. As well as George. So we saw George on the weekends at that time, and he would come to our current city to attend school during the week. And then my parents would bring George on the weekends. And we also were able to generally spend more time with the babies during the weekends, just because we had extra help. So when my parents weren't there, we were completely by ourselves. All of our friends were in our current city or out of state. All of our family was in our current city or out of state. Daniel and I handled the NICU journey completely alone. We didn't have any friends or family that could help out. We definitely had some friends and family that came and visited to meet the kids and meet the babies, but they always, had to take off and go back home. So we were very alone. All we had was each other. And, Daniel and I certainly gained a bond during that time that I don't think we even knew was possible. And we're still bonded like that. We adore each other. We love each other. We have a very, very strong marriage. And so we were alone during that time. My parents would come, like I said, on the weekends so we could at least see George. And then we always had extra help and an extra set of hands. Well, the nurses and the staff didn't seem to understand that we were completely alone. We didn't have this huge system or, people that could help us and people that could come and help us. And they just weren't very nice sometimes in regards to times and timing and what we were trying to accomplish alone. And that we didn't have, people to help us come into the NICU. It was just us. I was recuperating from a C-section. We were very tired. We were, going to the NICU every day for hours at a time. that is an extremely tiring environment. Babies are passing around you left and right, and you're wondering when you're going to walk in and it's going to be yours, or that something happened through the night that was not positive and that your baby passed away. It's a fear that is constantly in your head, constantly on your mind. And they weren't very courteous to us, not knowing that, we were all by ourselves here. And they just didn't treat us with the utmost respect in regards to that. It became even worse when they started to come out. So, like I said, Amelia got released on April 6th. Bruce was 2 days later. And then Chrissy was 2 days after Bruce. And then Delivia was in there for like another month. And they were very nice to us in regards to, we are taking care of 3 babies by ourselves at home. And they wanted us up there every day, all day with Delivia. And it was so hard to do because we weren't getting any sleep. Maybe 2 to 3 hours a day if we were lucky. And we had a baby in the NICU and we knew that. And we wanted to be there for her and we wanted to stay all day. But we were so tired. And the nurses and doctors weren't nice to us about that at all. They would give us crap so one day we decided that we were going to spend like 6 hours with Delivia. We made sure that we had plenty of milk from these bad boys. We made sure that we had extra clothes, extra diapers, and we were going to spend all day with Delivia. We had it all planned out. We were really excited to get to spend this time together. And we just made sure it was good to go, and we were going to spend as long with her as possible, let her, lay with her sister, lay with her brother, so that maybe it would help her, with that bonding sentiment. We get up there, they said they had to check all of our temperatures to make sure that we were allowed in the NICU to see Delivia. They checked all of our temperatures. Bruce was last, and he was 1 degree over his temperature that he was allowed to be in order to go to the NICU. Well, shit. What are we supposed to do? We wanted to spend all day with Delivia. They won't allow the other 3 babies into the room because Bruce is 1 degree over. So I said, okay, Daniel, you go sit with them in the waiting room. I'm going to go see Delivia. And then I'll spend like a half hour with her. And then I'll come out, watch the other kids in the waiting room. And then you go and hang out with Delivia.
I'm your huckleberry.
We did that. She went over and saw, or I went in and seen Delivia, and then Daniel went in and saw Delivia. We spent an hour with her, and then we're like, we're going to take these babies home. We don't want them out in a waiting room all this time. Oh my God, they gave us so much smack for that. And were so rude to us about it. And you're only going to spend an hour with her? Well, we wanted to spend all day with her. That was our game plan. And now you're making 3 premature babies sit in a waiting room for Bruce being 1 degree over. Yeah, we want to get him out of this waiting room. It was like a normal waiting room with patients and things around them. I wasn't necessarily comfortable with them being in a hospital waiting room, being premature babies, and you're not letting us in. So yeah, we need to get them home. I'm sorry. God, they were so rude to us about that. And it was little things like that we dealt with through our entire NICU experience. So, the first thing that we kind of dealt with was you're going to have doctors that you adore and doctors that you can't stand. There was one doctor who was so rude to us through our entire NICU journey and entire NICU experience that I still hear her in my nightmares. I still think about her almost on a daily basis. She ruined my life that bad. She was just so mean, no bedside manner, didn't care that, we were by ourselves in Phoenix and we were doing the best that we could in regards to being there for them. And I don't get it because on their discharge papers, they wrote how we were there every single day and we were excited to take them home every single day. The discharge papers described exactly what it should be, that we were excited and we couldn't wait to bring them home, and, that we were, good parents. And this doctor just downright despised us. She did not like us, and I don't know why. To this day, I still don't know why, but her accent and the way that she treated us, I still think about today. It was the same thing with nurses. You know, there was nurses that I adored in that, you know, I almost felt they were my friends compared to other nurses that I was so sad they were on that day, or that I knew that the next day these nurses were coming on the floor and I didn't want them to. I didn't like them enough and I didn't want to deal with them because they just had no bedside manner. They weren't very nice. They shouldn't, they were just awful. And then there were some that, I adored. They were understanding. They were sweet. They were kind. I did deal with a little bit of postpartum depression here and there, where I would just bawl and bawl and bawl and cry. And some nurses were really, really sweet. And I just had some overwhelming emotions. It didn't last very long. I was very lucky. I maybe was off for about a week. Which is also something that if you feel that you're experiencing, please reach out to a counselor. There is help for you and you will get through this. You'll be okay. It is a real thing. It's not talked about enough and there is help for you. Please reach out to your local hospital. Reach out to a counselor so that, we can get you the help that you need, because that is a real thing. I was blessed. It didn't happen to me for very long, but it did happen. And I knew what to expect. I knew it was coming and I was able to handle it the way that it needed to be handled. But so there was always doctors and nurses that were really rough to deal with. The other thing too is that if you couldn't be there all the time, you could call them. I called them all the time. They were literally on speed dial from my phone where I could call and check on my babies. And I did that all the time. So even when I couldn't physically be there, which was daily, I'm just saying it was late at night and Daniel was finally trying to get some sleep and I just was thinking about them and afraid for them. I could call the NICU and it's like, come on, I didn't try. There's so much that goes into those emotions, so much that goes into those feelings of the ones that I loved, the ones that I disliked. But not all personalities are going to get along. And some, it's still a part of my life today where it's just, mom guilt and, what did I do to piss that lady off? Or I'm so glad when Delivia finally got in that car to come home, I felt like I had been released from prison. I could be a mom. I didn't have anybody second guessing my parenting. I didn't have anybody second guessing my thoughts, where I needed to be, how I needed to do it, how I needed to be it. So yeah, it was prisonish and that may be very, very controversial, but they were telling me how to feed, what to feed, how to bathe, how to be, how often I needed to be. And that was really, really, really hard. And so when Delivia got out, it was a day of rejoice and excitement that we didn't have to go to the hospital every single day just to visit our child or children. And it was awesome. So that is all I'm going to discuss for now because our video is running a little bit longer. But I do have some things I want to show you. And I got through this one without crying. So that's pretty gosh darn cool if you ask me. So on the outside of their isolettes, they had these little cards. This was Baby D's. They also had their name as Bromley, and it's not, but that's okay. So they filled these out. Dee Dee's wasn't filled out, and I'm not entirely sure why, but the other one might be. Let me see. Yeah, so here's little Miss Chrissy's. So they had this on the outside of their little glass castle, and it's all filled out with all their information, and that's really, really cute. Their little hospital tag is right there. And then I have all of these little NICU bags filled with all of their good little stuff. So this was Amelia's. So it has Amelia's little hat. Let me show you that. So Miss Amelia's little hat. Let me see. And it has her little bow. Look at that little bow, guys. Look at how cute that little bow is. It's so tiny. It barely even fits my little finger here. Check that out. Check out, this was the hat that they gave her after she was born. How precious is that? So I have a bag like that for all four of them that I have kept. because I am just cool like that. And I have a whole box from NICU and from them as babies and things like that. So they also have these little cards on the outside of their little isolettes, and how much they weighed, their length, the doctor, and all of that. Congratulations, it's a girl. That was little Delivia's tag. And then I have, this is so fun, guys. Let's see, I have a little, this one is Bruce's, my little baby Bruce. Like, the biggest joy in my life ever. All right, so this is a blood pressure cuff. I mean, come on, guys. Look at that. Look at how cute. And it's a blood, I mean, come on. Look at that. Is that not just the cutest little thing that you have ever seen in your whole life? I mean, I just have some of the funnest, cutest little things here that I kept from this journey, which I'm actually really surprised that I did keep, because it's not necessarily something you always want to think about or remember, right? But you totally do. So we have some blankets that they came in. They had a lot of these. These were like the blankets of the NICU. And so we kept 4 of these. I believe it's the ones they came home in or were born in. I can't remember though. So there's that. And then, you guys, is their diaper. Look, can you see how tiny that is? Look at that. Look how tiny. How precious is that? Look at that little tiny diaper. It's not even, it's so cute. And you know what? These were like kind of big on them at first too, but they're so cute. Look at that. Isn't that precious? I mean, at the time it wasn't precious, but now it's really precious to have these memories and to be able to see where they came from, you know, and that's really important too. And then I just have some tubing with a little respirator guy right there. That I kept, and I'm not sure why I kept that one. That one's kind of a sad memory, I think. And then this looks like, I don't know, it just says girl on it. I want to say this is Delivia's. Now, you guys, you have to see this, okay? You guys have to see this. All right. This is Delivia's little mask for when she was getting the jaundice treatment. So remember I told you get a little tanning bed, and in that tanning bed, it was like a purple light to help with the jaundice of their skin. You guys, Olivia had a mask, and it's this, look at that, look at that, look how cute. Look at how adorable that is. Oh my gosh, so stinking cute. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. It obviously is not doing any good in, you know, a box. And then last but not least is kind of a sad one, but a very, very sweet one. My mom did not tell me this at the time. And I'm glad that she didn't, because it's emotional and it's really sad and a little messed up. My mom got each one of my babies, before they were born, really soft blankets. So the girls each had one of these purple ones, and then Bruce has a blue one that's white with stars on it. And I'm sorry, it's away in my box, so I'm not going to grab it right now. But my mom bought these. I think there's like little butterflies on them. Yes, here we go. So look at that. Look at that. Okay. So cute. And I don't know what it says either. Something cherished. Loved and cherished. They're really super soft, okay? And I saved all 4 of my kids' blankets. My mom bought these for them. She told me at the time for the NICU. Yeah, there was way more to it than that. My mom wanted it that if they passed away, that my kids would have a warm, fuzzy blanket to be buried in. Now, I know that that sounds morbid and sad, but I get where she was coming from with it, and I will forever be thankful for her for doing that, because my kids would have been warm and safe in their little blanket, And I'm so glad that I kept these so that I can tell the kids why they're so important and how important they are. And that, I don't know if I'll tell them the real reason that Grandma bought these, but it's very, very sweet. And it was, I'm glad that if that had happened, my kids would have been warm and wrapped in a perfect blanket for them. But it didn't happen. And so then this became their favorite baby blanket at home that we would snuggle them in. And they loved these until they got a little too big for them. And that's when I washed them, folded them up, and got them put in their little box so that they knew the significance of these blankets. And they were their favorite baby blankets. And I didn't want anything to happen to those. So I thank you for watching this journey with me. This was a very difficult topic to talk about. I was able to get through this one without crying too terribly hard. Sorry if I ruined my makeup before the video even started. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Subscribe to Shuffling the Quad Squad on YouTube so that we can get those subscriber numbers up. And also, please share on your Facebook page. And the more shares that we get, the better that this can keep going. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I know that we ran a little long today, but I hope that it shedded some light in regards to, you know, what the NICU journey was for us, and that I didn't jump around too much. I was able to keep the story kind of straight. You can reach out to me on my email, which is titanicdreamsauthor@yahoo.com. Please subscribe. Please share. Have an amazing and wonderful week. I love all of you for watching. I love all of you for your support. Thanks, and have a great week.